Welcome, you guys. This is another live stream that I'm doing from our yard out here in Volcano, Hawaii. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm just going to be looking at the live chat. So if you guys have any questions or want to talk about something, I might have a little insight. I might not. Maybe I still have more questions than answered. But anyways, my name's Matt Holton. I was born and raised on Maui, and I was just there last week visiting my parents. So it's something I've been watching every day. While I didn't live in Lahaina, I have many fond memories of Lahaina as a young kid. My first showing for artwork was right underneath the Banyan tree, and I did the Front Street Mile many of times. So very familiar with the area, a very special place. But I'm back here on Maui, and I'm trying to make sense of what's unfolding in the news, and wanted to give a couple updates on some things that I've been following. Number one, the pressure for the resignation of Mayor Bisson and the police chief is still rising, as it seems like they don't seem to have any good answers for what was happening in Lahaina between, I don't know, 3 and almost the next morning. So there's Mayor Bisson really hasn't given, I think, the people of the county of Maui anything very insightful. He had a very emotional speech yesterday in which he talked about um, being growing up in Lahaina. He's a native of Lahaina. Much of his family's there. He's a Lahaina Luna grad. But there still seems to be some really questionable communication errors. And on my own, I've been looking into what some of the protocol is for some of the emergency management systems or civil defense systems. And while there is a lot of protocol, the fact that there was nobody really in the state or in the county aware of what was happening in Lahaina at those vital hours is very disturbing. On other news, today is a day that all the islands are holding a vigil of a prayer of healing. So throughout the islands, um, different community leaders, religious leaders, and local leaders are taking this day to say prayers and speak to those who have been lost in this fire. Um, Also making the news today, as she likes to, Oprah saved. I'm not sure, but with the Rock looking to raise money and give I think their goal is $1,200 every month to anyone over 18 island affected by the fires. Um, Almost sounds like a basic universal income, but hey, Christina, at work, how you doing? Yeah, we just launched some gear as well. Um, but yeah, Oprah making the news again, and you know, I hope it's hard to say what her intentions are or what her plans are, but the fact that she pulled the Rock along, I guess is going to help her image. So, also they finished searching the waters, and it sounds like searching for bodies or the missing in Lahaina is now completed. So here we are, over 3 weeks out, and Josh Green, I believe, will be giving an update this evening at 6 of yet another revision of the numbers. Uh, the lack of transparency and clarity on the information on those missing has been maddening, I guess. Uh, yes, that does sound like a basic universal income from, I guess, Oprah and The Rock. I mean, an odd place for it to come from, but it does seem like the people of Maui will need just cash injected. Um, Back to some of the news relating to that, now more and more stories are coming out about, what it looks like at the rental car place and how many people who directly, indirectly, this is affecting. There's a lot of cancellations of reservations. There was a story about one of the helicopter companies, and the pilot's working once a day. You know, people have canceled to October and December. It seems like there's about 90% cancellation. Um, Bella, yeah, cash is king. It helps people when they need it. You know, just give them some cash, let them decide how to spend it and manage it. But if there's no income coming in from tourism, you know, the numbers are just quite staggering when you're talking about the whole west side being shut off and cancellations extending to the end of the year. Um, the number of people who pay for their lifestyles through the jobs that were provided at Lahaina, um, that are not going to be coming back, and even those resorts out there, I'm not sure there's going to be much on that side of the island at all. So, um, and what is it? The Hawaii Tourism Board also put together a $2.6 million marketing campaign. Um, so I guess they're going to be throwing money at trying to get tourists back here. However, back to some of the earlier issues with my concerns of Mayor Bisson and uh, the chief of police is Maui County really a safe place for its people or tourists? I think there needs to be a little more transparency, and we need to understand if there was huge errors in county or state in managing with this crisis, which it appears to be. And I wouldn't really want anyone to feel that you might be safe on Maui if these questions, um, yeah, the ripple effect. But it's going to be I don't know. It's going to be a difficult long road ahead, and how to navigate with tourism, I'm not sure. Money has to be injected, but yet we still have these safety issues. You know, Maui County's still in a drought. It's still fire season there. Um, I don't know. People from outside, do you feel comfortable with the county and the mayor? Um, yeah. I don't know. It was very emotional for me to spend time there and see all the people in need of help. So maybe if you're going there, as long as that maybe is part of your mission, is to help the people there. Uh, but the tough times ahead. And then also along with that, Christina just did a video as we looked at some articles that I did put in the description of this video. And those are some articles that were published before this devastating, um, yes, um, devastating world, as we see that the shady or dark past, or questionable past of the chief of police there on Maui. It seems like there's just more and more questions the further you dig, and uh, it's that you know, he was paid. There was a bunch of exceptions made for him. He got a $50,000 pay raise after like 50 days. Um, it seemed like when they surveyed people working the police department that oh geez, Eric West just got pulled over. That's not good. Um, but he created a toxic environment as soon as he came in. Yet they were giving him money for I don't know what performance. And it seemed like from the people surveyed in one of the articles, or the police officers surveyed, it seemed like it might have it was creating an environment where it might have been affecting public safety before this natural disaster, just by the low morale. Many officers wanted to retire early. It just seemed like a Joe Bo, Melbourne, Aloha. But it seemed like he hasn't been too good of not showing too much aloha or pona or whatever he thinks he's showing. But if you want to take a look at those articles or check out Christina's video, you can look into, you know, just scratching the surface, that it looks like even the, you know, somehow we were letting our guard down before this happened with such a toxic person in the environment there. So very concerning there. Um, But also, does anybody have any questions about, I don't know, what it's like on Maui? Are people familiar that there was different fires on the island? Um, Nothing pointed going on for sure. See, Obama tried to abduct you. That sounds, he is doing a movie about Betty and Barney Hill, one of the most classic abduction cases that's coming out on Netflix. So I guess maybe you might be onto something there. But and also the fundraising that I've been doing just through YouTube has been fairly successful. Last checked, I think it was $1,200 raised for the Maui Food Bank and um, the Maui Humane Society. So, thank you everybody out there for chipping in to our furry friends and the Maui Food Bank. They're just going to be needing funds and support for the long, long haul. Um, Talking about governor signing another proclamation there. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. That seems a lot goes on when we have these natural disasters that it seems like proclamation after proclamation. Um, COVID, I lost count at 19 or 22 or something, so it's hard to keep track of when they just have all these executive orders. Yeah, all eyes are on Maui, and I think that's a very important and good issue. All eyes should be on Maui. They need to be everywhere else in what's going on in this wild world we live at. But Maui kind of does represent, I think, a little microcosm of some of the challenges we're facing with social inequality, corruption in government, mismanagement, and if things, when are they going to get corrected? I don't know. Um, yes, looking at that video that Eric posted, yeah, I must say Eric is just really in the middle of all of this stuff, putting his neck out there for all of us to get a close picture of what it um, looks like. Will the air clear in time, guys? I'm not sure. Yeah, John M. Is there a huge difference between how a forest fire burns and it burns in there? One thing for sure, I actually took some time to look up what it looks like when a car fire it burns itself. For not a great experience, I've been close to two cars catching on fire, and it's amazing how quickly they can catch on fire. But I think KITV has a great video of a BMW catching on fire in Waikiki, and it is amazing once the parts of the car ignite that it becomes its own furnace. And with a little understanding, I believe car fires can get up to 1,500 degrees. Um, yeah, 24-inch mild steels, 1,500 degrees. But what you take in there might have been, well, there was 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. Adding that into the oxygen, you might get a pretty darn hot car fire there that might have been simply ignited by something, not a lot of energy. I mean, I think plastic starts burning at 500 degrees. So yeah, that wind must have just fueled, whatever the cause. Once that sparked up or that fire was not extinguished initially, that kind of, hey, Chick Eastwater, good to see you again. Um, Thank you guys. Yeah, those random cars, it definitely looked very suspicious. It's hard to make sense of it from being far away, but at least on an initial glance, it looks um, suspicious. But the fire at my up in Kula where my parents lived, I had a lot of people saying it looks suspicious. Some parts didn't burn, but that was because some people stayed and kept the sprinkler on, and other houses were saved. And small embers just burnt other houses. It's just really awful. Um, yeah, Clancy, it's one of the issues that we found in looking on what's going on, and we're trying to educate people about some of their legal, what they can do legally without actually having an attorney. And an important thing we found is the notice of claim to state and county for loss of property. And I think we can start to maybe get some of those forms going out, but it ultimately is probably going to become a issue of property rights here. And that's a constitutional right that that often gets solved by the Supreme Court. But there is some major property rights during this emergency proclamation that just don't seem seem questionable at best. Yeah, another thing about Lahaina is a lot of those about supplies. More and more supplies are coming in. Um, but sorry, there, lost my thought. Yeah, the fact that people were blocked from leaving, if those are just idiots, that's even scarier than being malicious. I'm not sure. Either way, it doesn't make any sense when and the basic oath is to protect and serve. And you don't have to be too bright to, realize that there's giant flames and cars blowing up to evacuate people. Those questions of why there weren't sirens, why, when the social media evidence is coming out very clearly with these timelines, um, it just seems like they were completely unaware of what was going on there. People escaped that didn't listen. Yeah, that's a disturbing thing. You grow up or you're told most of your life, hey, make sure you obey the rules, listen to those in charge. But it looked like some of the people, or most of the people, or all the people who survived in Lahaina, were the ones who disobeyed. There's a story about a bus driver with old people who just disobeyed the police officer to get them out of there. People had to go and over other blockades because these idiots were blocking the streets. Um, yeah, Yeah, were they aware of their fires? They sure should have been because there was initially a flare up. I think was at 9:30 in the morning from a initially from a downed wire that the fire department said it was 100% contained, and they left the scene. But what I understood is that the winds really did pick up in the afternoon. So whether that fire was still smoldering, or it really doesn't take much in those dry conditions with 20-mile-an-hour winds. But oh, this is one of the points I was going to say. A lot of old Lahaina is wooden buildings too, and it's everything in I think what pre 1940 was made with compressed cane and uh, formaldehyde. So it's like a toxic material, but those are all single wall building materials. The old ones, the ones that are newer ones, there's multi-million dollar cement, fortresses there. There's a wide range of homes there. Um, but it is, Lahaina, you know, one of our fond memories is Christina and I, we dressed up as Mr. and Mrs. Hankey at the infamous Lahaina Halloween debacle, and it's amazing. It's like the whole streets are just closed, filled with people dressed up with kids and family, and we went as Mr. and Mrs. Hankey from South Park. So yeah, Joe Bo. I'm not sure that there's anybody in any police department that would block people from getting out of a fire. Um, that says something about, I don't know, if the chief, the emergency management, the mayor, the people on the ground. I don't know how to make sense of that. Yes. Yes, that's a very good point there. Since the fire, a lot of scientists, arborists from around the world have been nurturing and monitoring the banyan tree. And if you don't know, yes, that property was very interesting. That viral property, that red roof property. Um, but he can prove this is not natural. Yeah, I and if anybody also listened to the emergency management guy who said they didn't want to turn on the sirens because people had their air conditioning on, which the power was out, or it was windy and they wouldn't hear it, or they would run towards the fire, and our governor Josh Green, Doctor Josh Green, sort of standing behind that or defending that. Growing up here, I've heard the sirens my whole life, and I've heard them when they were used for a tsunami, and I've I always understood that that's a hey, check the news. There's something going on if it's not on the first of the month. So the fact that they um, want to say that they didn't. That just seems so negligent. Even if you go to the website of the our siren system, which was built because of the disasters from tsunamis from I think the 40s and 50s. We have one of the best siren systems in the country for emergencies, and to not use them is just. And then to have the police there blocking people, and then to have our mayor and these people have no answers of who is in control, or who had any information about what's going on. Yes, yeah, the great comment there. The Maui leadership, and in all transparency and honesty, one of my classmates is the managing director for the mayor, Leo Kairos, and we were on the state championship team. Leo's a great guy, and now the guy in charge of the civil defense is my uncle. So some of these people very close to me. That being said, the communication or lack of communication by the county, it's just disheartening because the people of Maui, people anywhere deserve better than the answers they're giving us and the amount of information they're giving us. They're getting very defensive. Lack of transparency is only going to breed more and more conspiracies and mistrust and everything that you don't need to have after a disaster, which is like, hey, can we just have some information? Can you just share with us information? And from day one, when I was checking the fires, I was checking the fires when they happened through imaging, thermal imaging, satellite imaging, and you could see parts of upcountry were getting just spreading like very quickly. And I checked social media, and I started to see um, that the fires had spread from Olinda to, like, they had either started or spread to Kula, and then there was fires sparking up above Kihei, and the area above Kihei has burned many of times. But so I had seen where my parents were, and they were directly in the zone of hotspots, and so I called them, and I just let them know they were planning on, and the fire up there had started just in the afternoon. They claim it was a transistor going down from high winds, and it looks like my dad has some photos that sort of show that. Um, but since then, I was following the fires and the hot spots, and that night I couldn't sleep because I was aware just from the thermal imaging that Lahaina was starting to light up. And I tried to go to bed at like 8 or 9, but I checked social media to see images and videos that were already coming out, and tried to lay down and kept checking. My parents had to go to an evacuation center. They were given a warning. The police came by their house and told them to leave. It was not like what happened to Lahaina. They were very fortunate. They got out. They spent the night sleeping in their car in Pukalani, and then I was on the phone with them that next day, and I was already aware and had heard that Lahaina was destroyed, and that was at 5:30 in the morning when I was talking to them. The mayor wasn't aware of the level of destruction until that morning, as well as the guy in charge of Higa. So how they could not be aware, where I live out in the volcano in the sticks, uh, I have no, that seems just recklessness. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it's safe to advise tourists to come to Maui when there's an issue of leadership or a crisis in leadership and communication? Um, yes, yeah, yeah. I would check out a lot of Eric's videos from day one. He's been there on the ground. Him and All Things Good all the time. He had some amazing footage of escaping the fire, and now he's going through the experience of living in the hotels, um, and what it's like emotionally, mentally, to live right where he lost everything, but his spirits are good. Um, how is that Muppet Green? I don't know how Green made it in. I was kind of confused because he was in charge when the COVID went out, and he was a doctor, and I didn't think he did a very good job of communicating. So somehow he pleased the unions, or I don't know what, but um, he got in. Yeah, Eric actually sort of inspired me to sort of take on some of this role and tell this because I saw what Eric was doing and I was like, you know what? More people here on Maui, more people who have ties to Maui can fill in these gaps, can share these stories. Some of his interviews and the fundraising that he's done for families, um, that kind of inspired me to start some fundraising through YouTube. And I have one, Jesse Joseph 9, um, yeah, yeah. The fires were everywhere. It was not just Lahaina. Lahaina got devastated, but it was a total of probably about 5,000 acres that burnt on that island in those 2 days. And when I left, Kula was still smoking. I actually spotted a smoking spot before I left. We had to stop the car, get out, make sure everybody who was already traumatized about the fire was also aware of it. And but there's still, I think, a fire warning was for yesterday because of the winds and the dry conditions. So um, Maui's not out of this at all. So, but there has been tons of fundraising going on. Um, but I'm not sure that as good and as well intentioned. And I'm trying to, throw in my 2 cents. The needs for that island are substantial. It's Yeah, you think they should still visit? I think sensitivity is going to be, um, yeah, yeah. A little side note when I first found out about YouTube, I think it was 2005. Katrina had hit. Christina and I were moving back to Maui, or I was moving back with her to Maui, and um, I thought, why would anybody want to broadcast themselves? Like, why, who would do that? And I think it's at these moments, watching Eric and watching some other people on the ground there, all things good all the time. One of them is that that's why. It's so that we can share our stories with everybody out there, and that we don't have to be broadcasted. I think you know mainstream media news, whatever you want to call it, it hasn't been a source of my information for a long time, and I've relied on social influencers, bloggers to educate myself about issues I feel passionate about, issues I want to be a part of the community, and initially YouTube was to reach out to the surfing and the windsurfing community to show what Maui looked like, and now it's directed to like thinking about the people of Maui, um, talking about it, and making sure that this story doesn't end because I think we really have a lot more to do. I think Christina and I have a goal of like, can we try to do some notice of claims and help people at least realize that the very first step is to file a claim of notice with the state and the county of their negligence because they might be able to prove that pretty easily, but that they have losses that that's protected by them by the Constitution, and that all the despair we still have to thank God we got this Constitution still in place that we can at least hold that up for now and say, hey, this is you guys, you still have to follow by these rules. So um, and on that note, something that I've been using to educate myself about the law is a link I have below. It's I don't know, you'll have to check it out, but it's an AI attorney, and I'm using a 7-day free trial, and it's allowing me to search statutes, regulations, case law by state, by Supreme Court, by district court. But it is a very handy tool um, with just a little knowledge of how to search for things. So, all right, Christina, I'll see you. I'll be picking you up. So, Christina, for some of you who don't know, she's a has her own channel, but she also is the content creator for the Volcano Art Gallery Center, and she just started a station with them. And if you want to see some amazing art where she works and she sells art as well as hula performances, check it out at the Volcano Art Center Gallery, channel. Um, yes, the degree of politics there on Maui. Um, well, I guess what we suffer from is a small island syndrome in many ways. if you really want to look how corrupt, not maybe Maui is, but there's a case of the former chief of police of Oahu. His last name was Aloha, and you the level of corruption, the feds got involved basically, and when the feds got involved, they kind of revealed the level of corruption. I wish I had the knowledge to summarize it, but it's so complex and so corrupt through his whole family and the police department there that and then another little side note on the former chief of police of Maui. I guess nothing as egregious as what we're seeing here, but there, Cristina, Volcano Art Center Gallery. Check it out, you guys. Is that he was, I believe, caught with his girlfriend, a friend who is a girl, not his wife, I guess, and he backed out and hit a motorcycle at the shopping center and just fled the scene. So he did a little hit and run after I think going to Coho's, and so he had to resign. But don't look too deep into Maui police chief, as well as some of the corruption. There there's some good people, however, on the police department, and some of them have been my close friends and classmates. So while leadership may be in crisis, right, it's always important to understand there's good individuals behind, yes, um, every department. It's just, not all of them. And yeah, bringing up that point, I have a link to an article, anybody in the description who would like to read about that Oprah and Rock. I guess Oprah was getting some bad backlash from how she first came into the shelters, and you know, it didn't appear in very good taste to the people of Hawaii or people who were affected by this trauma. So she's shifted a little bit and done a good PR job of having the Rock hug her. And they have a plan to raise, I think, but they seeded it with $10 million, to give out $1,200 to everyone over 18 who is affected by the fire. Or, I don't know how broad it is. Read the article, it's interesting. Um, but just remember the amount of money that Maui's burning up by not having tourists. The numbers are like 50 to 60,000 tourists on Maui at any one given day during the peak season, which is the summer. And I think they spend on average, or visitors spend, not they, I mean, I'm a visitor everywhere as well, $270 a day. So the literally without tourism, at it's at under 2,000 visitors a day. So I don't know the total numbers, but a lot of old boy networks in Hawaii for sure. Nothing but old boy networks here. Many people who aren't Hawaiian were immigrants here and go back 100 years plus. So my family goes back, I think, 4 generations to the Azores in Portugal. So there's many people with deep roots here and well interconnected. New World Order. Sometimes it feels like that. I worked under four mayors, stories. It was bureaucratic malfeasance. Well put, well put. One of the examples maybe in upcountry of water meters has been an issue forever, and there's people who are waiting for water meters from I think the 90s. So it seems like you kind of have to grease the wheels on Maui when it comes to getting things going, but it seems like a bureaucratic nightmare. I don't work for them, but yeah, great thing to do too along those notes of annexation is for those of you who are not that familiar with Hawaiian history. It is a deep, rich one with a lot of question marks everywhere, but it's one of property rights. It's a one of missionaries. It's a one of big landowners coming in, and then when Hawaii was annexed first, and then it became a territory. and then in 1959 it got statehood. But along those ways, there was much controversy and much upheaval by the people of Hawaii, as the slow land grab. Um, on one of the brighter notes of that history is the Kamehameha schools, which Kamehameha schools, you might love it or hate it, but it's, I believe, one of the wealthiest schools, high schools, if not in the country. It's worth billions of dollars, and it's from the trust of, and there's institutions on what's one here, one on Maui, one the main campus, which is on Oahu, and they provide outstanding education to all the kids of Hawaiian descent. There's been legal cases where it's now opened up to people who are not Hawaiian descent, but it's top-notch facilities for people who can make it into these schools. Um, Yeah, arson for the fire. I'm not sure. There's too many people who think it's arson. It could have been a cigarette butt for all I know. But a lot of the concern is, some mismanagement of dry land around Lahaina. Um, yeah, Fleetwood had a restaurant there in Lahaina. Um, Lahaina had some. Lahaina was like a little. It was like a reminded me of an element of Pirates of the Caribbean on the Disneyland ride. There's all these historical buildings, the old prison. Everything had a. It felt like sailors had been there. It felt like it was a whalers' village. So, thank you, and it had that feel to it because they had preserved many of the buildings. The Baldwin estate, they had an old boat in the harbor. I forget its name, but the tree was 150 years old, and you were walking into history, and then it was bustling with art galleries from local artists to high end artists, and yeah, that's right. The Kula Fighter started, you know, but it was a wonderful place, filled with tourists. But it's one of the places I climbed that banyan tree. I went to see Terminator 2 at the mall right there. I did my first stamp and collecting and coin collecting there at the shops right behind the banyan tree. I don't know. Countless times spending, I don't know, many hours in and around Lahaina, and it's still just devastating to know that it's this barren wasteland and just gray ashes. It's and what are they going to do going forward? Yeah, that's the big question. Um, should have been there in the 70s. I bet. I was there in the early 80s that I remember, and even those memories before a lot of the big resorts, the Grand Wailea or the Four Seasons existed. I remember going to those beaches as a baby, and it was just it's just changed so much, and I know we're in this constant process of change, and it can be tough to swallow. Yeah, paint your house blue. Uh, seems like a good idea to me. Whatever you want to believe about anything. I was thinking maybe a blue jumpsuit, a blue fire suit. Denver was better in the 80s. Yeah, that Josh Green meeting July 12th at the UN meeting was phew, yeah, I don't know what is happening to our Earth. I don't know. We all have to do our little part to make it better, take care of it. There's fiberglass type, sure. Yeah, I don't know why there aren't people protesting. Maybe there are people protesting at the mayors or the chief of police. I think if the governor wanted to save any of his face, maybe you know putting some pressure on Bisson and John might help people move forward. Might help the healing process, as well intentioned or ill intentioned as they are. That might be um, a very important part of this whole process in moving forward. But how do you sign an emergency 3 weeks prior? We're all looking for that answer, I think. Hawaiian is all woke. I don't think I agree with that. If you go to some local places here, it's sweet Hawaii with families and kids playing at the beach, surfing, being friendly, talking stories just like we are. So, um, but that's part of my process here too, is just to maybe give some of you guys an update, give you guys some space to talk about this in the chat. Um, and let me just decompress with this as well. If anything, that's making space for people and letting people have time to talk about this. There's people maybe are going through much more than I can even imagine, but just be open, listen to people, listen to strangers, be nice, and right, what a basic saying, make sure you say hello. It's always important to say hello. Say hello to the homeless guy. Say hello to the person who doesn't look happy. um, yeah, Great Reset is here right now. Yeah, reset something. Sure looks like difficult times ahead. Did this all happen? Yeah, I guess, were we too sucked into technology? I don't know if anybody's familiar with some of the um, UFO, UAP experiences, but there's the Zimbabwe case where object landed and a bunch of school children um, went and saw beings that came out of a spacecraft, and they recount their stories even today, and they drew pictures, and they had some people study what was going on there. But one of the things that they felt that was being communicated to them through telepathy through these beings was that technology, and that we're not taking care of our planet, you know, and the advancement of technology, maybe our lack of empathy to the planet that's changing as we're changing with it, and technology and are spreading into urban centers, and completely changing the landscape of places. Is this all a result? Is this all our own doing? Is I don't know. Lots of native Hawaiians. Yeah, looking into the past of the Hawaiian people is a must. Some of my favorites are Herb Kane's books. They're illustrated books. He's passed away. He was a legendary artist here, but he painted vivid pictures of what it looked like pre-contact. He's involved in the Hokulea project of rebuilding the canoe that's traveled almost around the world based on the technology of the Hawaiians and the Polynesians, showing that it was possible to go from Polynesia to Hawaii, you know, way before any Europeans were traveling around. So there are many signs about the direct energy weapon, no doubt about it. I'm not sure there's that many signs. There obviously is questions of like what exactly went on, but um, you know, there, and the government, the county, the state, whatever, has been doing a great job of not showing us what's going on, which means Sherm's, if it talks like a duck, walks like a duck. That seems like there's a duck. Eric got a ticket for a broken headlight. Oh, yeah, he is really in the middle of it. So, but right, the police department. I would be cautious, I guess, on the police department on Maui. Maybe it's a little bit like a little mafia like there. Yeah, yeah, that's the one thing I think, maybe, fear. Fear is a dangerous thing, whether it's fear. It sucks that there's so much fear that is on in Maui right now. Yeah, the 14th Amendment. This is a great time, Christina. Yeah, to make sure we understand the Constitution, the amendments. Those it's we the people. So make sure we all read it, because it's our responsibility when it comes down to it. It's all of ours. So. But something I was, yeah, fear controls. One of my favorite books is 1984, right? And it's the end of that book where what they have a rat by his face, and it's his fear that they get him to collapse, and they break him essentially. You know, Eric West has been detained. Well, I don't know any of these things for a fact yet. I'm probably going to end this pretty soon, but I'll look into that. Um, but something I was saying earlier that I wanted to mention to anybody who's still listening is they've been having people tend to the banyan tree, the 150-year-old tree from India, I believe. And there has been no signs of shoots yet. And this tree is symbolic for, I think, so many reasons. It seems like straight out of the movie Avatar, basically, or James Cameron's hitting on some nerves there. But they did find some signs of health in the roots. So there's love for that banyan tree, because I think, if that thing can have some leaves, I think it'd be great for everybody, for every reason possible, and that it shows that how resilient life can be despite this just disaster. So, um, that's something I'll try to be keeping my eye on. Um, I'll try to be adding more links into these videos, and as long as I see that there's people who want to listen or have this dialogue here, maybe we can start bringing some other people into this live stream. I think it's nice to do a live stream. It's nice to rebroadcast, but um, yeah, I thought that the plot of Avatar, it is if you haven't seen that movie, I think that's a movie why it was so successful is I think we can all resonate with that movie. I see colonialism, I see like the alien in us, I see the greed, corruption, the money, to the extent of destroying everything that's beautiful, and that, right in Avatar, the second movie, they're torching, they're literally torching the people who they don't know where the family is, but they're still just torching their villages, um, and it's just this destructive force of corruption that James Cameron captures so well. The whale and the whale songs. Anybody who's been in the water, that movie really resonated. I cried in that movie, and then only for something like Lahaina to happen. It's like, I'm trying to turn those tears into actions. Um, that's interesting, DC 777. I did see some clip someplace of something of that. Can't verify it, but yeah, I did see something like that. Mark Oliver, yeah, there is that I think there is that pressure right now. Um, the Tic Tac was ours. Yeah, that's what I think Stephen Greer would say. Um, but I guess it doesn't matter the amount of trauma that it's affected. So, well, yeah, a Skunk Works. I have a Skunk Works shirt. Matt, there's so much corruption going down. We want to help you. What do you need? Well, thank you very much. Right. Number one is we're trying to put together some information that we can get out. So we're interested in getting out, helping people file a claim of notice. So once we have more of that information out, we'll broadcast it here. And if you know anybody on the ground, anybody who wants to at least put the state and county on notice that, hey, we're putting a claim on you that your negligence is a cause for some of this damage here, that it's the first thing you want to do before you do any legal action. So it's something that is, if we can do it right, and then create make it custom for people, we might be able to recover and get some of these people to stand guard and be aware that, hey, we can play by these rules too, and we can do these things the right way. So as we get closer to getting that information, we'll put it on my channel, we'll put it on Christina's channel, and then we'll just try to get it out to the people in Hawaii, in Lahaina most specifically, so that they know that they do not necessarily need an attorney to do this. They just need to do these claims properly. And to put these people on guard that, hey, you know what? I don't think we're just going to let all this stand by. We need people accountable. It looks like there's levels of negligence, criminal. It looks like all these things. So someone, someplace is responsible for this. These people take an oath to the people, the county of Maui, to the state of Hawaii, and that when you take that oath, that we're an emergency, I understand, but it doesn't mean that you have these overarching powers that override basic constitutional rights. So, but are kids really missing? Yeah, accountability and the kids missing, those two things coming together, the numbers, the missing, the transparency. That's all about it. I gotta say, it's like we need some other, third party investigations or, community driven open source. We can do better than this in this day and age in 2023 where we all have devices and we all, we need to know more about where people are, Yeah, but I think I'm gonna be going off in a few more minutes here. I'm just outside my yard. I can show you a little bit what it looks like here. That's some of the backyard. Yeah, we do have to hold the land. Thank you, thank you. The land is beautiful. Yeah, lucky to live in Hawaii. Lucky to have ties to Hawaii. Yeah, thank you. We live in a 400, 500 year old ohia forest up in Volcano that we bought before the pandemic, and we bought an RV with some Bitcoin and built a house, and we moved into our house, and been doing yard work, planted some citrus trees, um, and now living in Volcano, we get 220 inches of rain. So if Brisson for Prison, that'd be a good T-shirt design. And it's bison, but maybe maybe there's something there. Like, ay ay ay. Yeah, Ash. Ash is our cat. She is. We brought her from Kula. We used to live in upcountry Kula, and oh, you're close by, Bellum. Yeah, Volcano is great. There's some. We live pretty close to the park, and being so close to the park is great for just running and hiking. Um, yeah, this is a little bit of a town hall. We need to get more people on board, and just talk about things, I guess. And get outside our bubble, and have conversations so that we're comfortable having conversations, and maybe disagreeing with people, and but at least listening to them, so making that space. Thank you, Lucy Lee. you know it means a lot. Bad motorcycle. Thank you, great bit. Bill, Bib, Bilby. Yes. um I'll briefly give you a little of my background. I'm born and raised on Maui. Went to Bentley College in Massachusetts, Waltham, for 2 years. Ran cross country track. Then went to University of Oregon, where I tried out for the track team. Was put on a developmental team. Then left to pursue law school at Temple Law School. After about a little less than a year, went to Knoxville, Tennessee, where I started pursuing a career as a professional runner. From there, I went to Flagstaff and ran my butt off from 90, 100 plus miles a week. Um, Met Cristina there, and then moved back to Maui in 2005. Lived in upcountry. Um, Started my art career there, um, in Satellite City, and we were in a. If anybody wants to watch some of my videos, there's lots of. I have over 1,000 videos on Maui. Everything from the house we lived in to windsurfing to you know just everything. Everything that I found of interest and I wanted to capture, you know, and that's where I started my YouTube career. That's where I started my art career. We were in this old farmhouse paying $600 a month, and it allowed Christine and I to get ahead, save up some money, buy property here in the Big Island, because we knew that Maui just wasn't affordable. For those of you who don't live there, or $1 million is the average price of a home. Rent is ridiculously high, and I wasn't planning on making $1 million anytime soon, so I wasn't going to buy a house. So we bought some land out here in Volcano, where you have to. A lot of people live off the grid, so. Um, we've been 3 years off the grid. We catch all our own water. Solar, electrical is all off grid. Um, I felt quite a while ago that, hey, what can I do personally to tread lighter on this planet? And part of that was to start growing our own food. We have had chickens. They got taken out by some dogs, but we're gonna have more chickens. But live simple. You know, live off grid. Just have as little as a footprint as we could, while being reasonable, and knowing um, that we can have an impact by maybe setting an example of just living with a small imprint. So I built the house myself with some guys we paid pizza and beer to, and I'm so glad I never believed in government. Well, yeah, you know, it's weird. I did. I must say we benefited from the pandemic when they gave all that money out. It's almost as they gave out too much money, but was that government working? You know, I'm not sure. Like, it seems like government works really good at war, or continuing war, and that my grandfather was tax director of Hawaii, and um, while not a perfect person, I don't. He was a true public servant, and he loved what he did, and but I'm not sure those people are in government anymore. I think maybe too much money has seeped into government. Um, you know, they have the Ukraine issue. Has anyone watched what happened to Mitch McConnell the last two times? The man's not healthy, and he's frozen talking to the press, and he's one of the most powerful people in Congress. And does he know what's going on in Maui? Does he is he even should he be where he is? You know what Biden has to have notes often. It's easy to be critical, right? But it's also another thing to have solutions and answers. But boy, we there's something smelly for sure. And there's just so many back ways to money. It's like, where's the heart? Back to the Avatar series. Like, I hate to bring up James Cameron, but boy, he nails it on he nails that where it's like, whew, there's dark forces at play, and it's not always obvious who they are. I'm writing 3 books right now, and in one of them I talk about the idea of Moloch. That idea of like the Lord of the Rings, the Gollum. The that it's not necessarily a person, but maybe just sort of greed isn't a person. Corruption isn't a person. It operates through people. but it's a force that is out there that kind of spreads, and sometimes we let it spread too far, and then what's the result? You know that we lose innocent people, and we lose a community. We lose people we love, you know, and if that's the cost, you know, geez, we have to reset for sure. So yeah, the stealing of Hawaii. Well, you guys, you know, I'm gonna get off here, but I hope you guys have found a little space to you know, share your thoughts, and you know, it seems like the the chat has been, you know, I can't complain about it. So yeah, thank you. But glad to have you guys here. You know, spiritual. I'll try to keep on doing some information, and maybe, you know, 30 minutes, an hour a day, if there's an attention for this, and we want to continue this discussion as well as show you guys what we have learned we can do. You know, yeah, thank you. And Cristina will be going to Maui on the 11th. So I think we are going to try to get her to have some interviews with some people, some friends. One of my friends lost a big part of his farm, Ope. So we'll try to get more stories from people there, business owners, and, you know, just keep get the word out. You know that hey, we're listening to you guys. We get your aloha. We need it, and we need just to keep on spreading it. So you guys take care. Aloha.